Hey, y'all, I'm Jesse with Carolina Whitetails, and I appreciate you checking us out for another episode of Carolina Whitetails Indoors Edition, where we get a chance to talk with some really cool and interesting people who share our passion for hunting in the outdoors. I'm excited about our guest today because I watch his YouTube channel all the time, Have Bow Will Travel. I'm excited to learn a little bit more about him and the techniques he uses to get ready to go into the deer woods. My guest is Tanner Edenfield. Tanner, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Doing good, man. I appreciate you giving us a little bit of time to talk with you. Like I said, I'm a fan of your channel and I watch it all the time. But for the people that may not be familiar with you and your channel, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so basically the name says it all. Just kind of travel around bow hunting, mostly whitetail deer, but maybe a little bit of hogs. Have gone mule deer hunting, but whitetails are our main focus, I guess you'd say.
Cool.
That's about it. We try to. I think one thing we do different than other people is I have no shame. I'll kind of show exactly what happens, and a lot of people, if they mess something up, they won't show you or, kind of edit stuff to make themselves look cool or whatever like that, but we try to just keep it real. So.
Yeah, I've noticed that. And that's one thing that draws me to your channel is just the realness of it. As you just said, the name says it all, and you hunt around a lot of different places and a lot of different states, but where are you from?
I'm Georgia.
Have you always lived there?
Yes, sir. My whole life. Yep.
Now, to back up a little bit, when did you first start hunting and how did you get introduced to it? Did you have a family member or a friend or somebody that got you into it?
Yeah, my dad was a big hunter, and that's kind of all I've ever wanted to do. Even as a kid, 5, 6 years old, I'd take a toy bow out in the woods and sit there all day. Nobody had the heart to tell me I didn't have a chance of killing nothing, I guess. But just so since then, got old enough, started hunting, and pretty much been my whole life kind of deal.
When did you kill your first deer?
When I was 12 years old.
Was it a buck or a doe?
We had like 10 acres by the house. It was a buck, barely. Little yearling 4-pointer.
Oh, yeah. Now, a lot of people bow hunt, and then as the season changes, they pick up a muzzleloader or pick up a rifle, but you strictly bow hunt. What made you decide to just strictly hunt with a bow?
I wouldn't say, I will rifle hunt. I killed a deer with a rifle last year, but it's, to me, I just enjoy it so much more with a bow. And, the other side of it is somehow it doesn't really make sense, but I'm a better hunter when I'm bow hunting. And it's weird. I think just whenever I rifle hunt, I just kind of get lazy and think, well, if I just sit down this lane, eventually something across. But it seems like I actually do better when I'm in that bow hunting mindset of, focusing on reading sign more and trying to pinpoint one deer and thinking what is he going to do? Seems to do better for me than, whenever I rifle hunt. Like I said, I just kind of fall into a trap of just, I wouldn't say lazy hunting maybe, but just, thinking being able to see the most is the way to go or something.
Yeah.
Kind of.
No, I agree with you. Bow hunting definitely requires you to be more aware of the deer that's in front of you and the sign. You can get away with a little bit more with a rifle when you can reach out and touch them. I've been watching your channel here recently, just to prepare to talk to you and stuff. And I went back all the way to I think it was like your first or second video where you killed like a really big buck. You was a little bit younger, and I was wondering if you could tell us about that, because the reason I mentioned that, and I recommend everybody that's watching to go check it out, because just the like you mentioned earlier, being real and the real emotion and all that, man, I just really enjoyed that video. So I was just wondering if you could talk about that first big buck you shot, that you filmed.
Yeah. It was, I had joined a club in Twiggs County, and it's kind of the way the club's set up is like every member got their own little area or whatever. So my area, I think it was just kind of a random draw. I don't know how it worked. Anyway, my area ended up being just a big clear cut, like wasn't even a tree on it, hardly to climb to even try to bow hunt. So my buddy Danny Sanders, who's actually the president of the club, he said, "Well, I don't even hunt there that much. You can just go hunt my area." I said, "Okay." So went over there, and I think it was 150, 200 acres, and got a couple cameras up and put some corn out over there. And I actually had the buck coming in one spot, and but the hog, I put corn out, because this whole property is just a huge pine plantation. So if you ain't baiting, you kind of just playing Battleship, trying to guess where one's gonna walk by. This pine tree ain't no better than the other one, So I got there and put some corn out, and unfortunately, the hogs had found it too. So like the buck was still coming in, but the hogs were eating corn faster than I could carry it out there, and it's like a mile from the truck. I had a little two-wheel drive F-150, couldn't make it there. Didn't have a four-wheeler at the time. I'm just carrying in corn up there, So anyway, so one day I'm easing back there and I see these hogs crossing the road. I run up there and stalk up on them and miss one. Well, they keep running toward the corn, so I just keep following them, and ease back up on them and shoot one on the shoulder, and it runs through their bleeder thing, and the deer left there. So anyway. So then it's kind of like back to where did he go? I figured, it ain't like he's going to just move over to the next county. So there's a long lane that had used to be a food plot that went must have been 400 or 500 yards. I walked down there and eased down and finally cut some big tracks crossing there, and thought, good chance that's him or another big buck. So I put some corn in the camera right there and gave it, I don't know, 4 or 5 days, and eased back in there and checked the camera, and he'd been there a couple times in daylight, so I felt like I had a pretty good chance. And funny thing about it, I was so shook up, I got on Facebook and told everybody I had a prayer request. Which, normally I ain't the type to do that, but it was kind of funny though, man, because normally I feel like, God, he don't care if I shoot a deer or not, he got better things to worry about. But the way that played out and the fact that I did that prayer request was weird, man, because the wind was hitting me like in my left eye all day, which I didn't know where the deer was coming from. I felt like it wouldn't have been the wind I'd have picked, but I thought I'd been okay. And then maybe 45 minutes before dark, it switched. And the crazy thing was that deer walked in, he would have been straight downwind, and then he had like a 2-year-old 8-pointer with him, and that joker's like blowing and blowing. No, actually what it was, they come in like this, and that I heard a deer blow, and then they circled downwind, and the wind switched like right at the perfect, like it was crazy. And anyway, so this 2-year-old 8-pointer is like blowing. He runs by me blowing, and the big buck he doesn't pay any attention. Acts like nothing's going on. Walks right in, gives me like a 30-yard shot him in the heart, and I just freaking lost it because, you're from North Carolina, so I'm sure it's kind of the same way there. Like the deer, it was like a 130-inch deer, and growing up, my dad had only ever killed like one deer over 130. So in my mind, like if you could just kill 130 in your lifetime, you'd be done did it. Like,
Yeah.
probably, like I thought that'd be the biggest deer I'd ever kill. And of course, I actually thought he was like 140, but he ended up being like 130. But anyway, so I'm sitting here thinking I done probably killed the county record, just freaking lost it. So I mean, it was, and the funny thing about that is like I started to almost not even put that video out because it was so embarrassing, me crying like a baby. But then I thought, you see all these guys on TV shoot like 150, 160-inch deer and barely crack a smile because they didn't, they just went somewhere and somebody said, hey, there's a 160 here, come shoot it, So
Yeah.
anyway, but that ended up being, that ended up being kind of, sort of kind of blew up, and that's what kind of encouraged me to keep on filming because I wasn't really a filmer before that. I mean, I tried it a few times as a kid and, just kind of a lot of work, really toting all that extra stuff. But that just, after I killed that big one on film, it kind of, it's kind of like once I switched to bow hunting full time, it made gun hunting seem like a little bit less exciting or something, which is kind of like once I killed that big one on film, I felt like I needed to keep filming to just add that extra element of difficulty to it, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
Plus, you get to look back and relive it. That's always cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I really enjoyed that video. And yeah, what you're saying is true. You watch a lot of videos, man. People, they kill a 140-inch deer and, they're like, no big deal, shot him. It's a nice deer. And I'm like, dude, that's a killer buck, man. Here, like you said, here in North Carolina, that's a good buck. But yeah, that's one reason I enjoy your channel.
I mean,
is because of the being so close to where I'm at, Georgia and North Carolina. It's a lot of similarities.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it's just like, I mean, how much work would go into killing a deer like that.
Oh yeah.
But some of these guys you see on TV, they don't have anything invested in it. They didn't do any work. Sponsors sent them there, and there they are, and just pull the trigger. Not easy.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of times you mentioned God playing a part in it, but and a lot of times you think, because I've done the same thing, man. I've been in the stand and I've been like, Lord, just let this buck walk out or whatever. But in your case, if it hadn't worked out like that, it might have not put you on this whole path of having this YouTube channel and hunting all over the place. So you never know. There may be a purpose behind it,
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes you think. I don't know. Like I said, I always felt like, like who am I to ask God to let me shoot a deer when there's people starving in Africa or whatever? But
no, I get you. Yeah, you think there's bigger issues going on.
With that wind switching at the perfect time and everything, kind of makes you think.
Yep.
So
now, do you continue? Do you still hunt on this same property, or do you have another piece of property that you hunt?
I don't hunt that same place anymore, and number one, it was kind of far from the house, and the deer I killed, they said that was the biggest deer that ever been killed with a bow there in like 30, 40 years or whatever. I mean, and it was the biggest deer I got on camera by a long shot. So it was kind of like, I mean, it just wasn't, I don't know. I mean, I just felt like for the money the club costs and everything, I just kind of moved on, you know what I mean? But now I've got mostly just properties I've got permission on.
Do any of the property, or do you hunt it like year after year, or you hunt in different places? You're just going wherever you can get permission and setting cameras, or do you have some land that you go to like every year and kind of watch the deer, get familiar with?
I've got a lot of, I mean, I've got a lot of them that I've had for 4 or 5, even up to maybe 7 or 8 years. I generally behave myself and keep a pretty good uh, relationship with the landowners, and generally I don't lose one unless somebody moves or they sell it or whatever.
On these properties that you hunt year after year, is there anything that you do like every year to prepare for season? Like, do you plant food plots on these properties or have feeders that go, do you have anything that you do every year?
I generally, I don't generally do any food plots or anything. I mean, I bait all the properties, but the thing about it is, man, I'm generally gonna find 20 or 25 mature bucks and hunt the biggest 3 or 4. So it's like, yeah, I could plant a food plot here, and there might be a shooter there 1 out of every 5 years, and I won't know that, but until I've done a few $1,000s in planting a food plot. And then
Right.
the other thing is to really do it. If I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it right, and do it right. Yet you need to lime it and all that, and I could spend all this money and lime it and lose it the next day. If it's, you just never know. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. So when does y'all season start down there?
But here in Georgia, it starts. It's usually the Saturday after Labor Day. I think it's like the 11th or 12th this year.
Yeah, I think it's the same time here. Have you been scouting?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've been scouting. I'm a little bit behind because work's been so crazy with our government paying people to stay at home. Can't hire anybody, but and then I've been scouting Kentucky a little bit harder because I got to thinking about it here in Georgia. I always kill my biggest deer early season and in January, so I figured maybe this year I decided I'd treat like Kentucky and Ohio like I do here and scout them a little bit harder and maybe try to make something happen early season or at least like know what I've got going in because even if I do most of my hunting near the rut, at least I'll know what properties have what kind of because in the past I've been just showing up late October or November and hunting, and I just thought this year I'd put a little bit more research into it, but having to work too, only got so much time, so all the time I'm spending up there is less time I have here, but it'll work out.
Are any of the bucks that you're seeing this year, are they bucks that you've seen previous years that you recognize?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've got a lot of them. I've been watching 3-4 years. The deer I call the Bully 9 is probably as of right now, he's probably the main deer I'm going to target. And he's either 7 or 8 years old, and it's my 4th year watching him.
You mentioned just a minute ago Kentucky, and I know on your channel I've seen you hunt all over the country. What are some of the places that you've traveled to deer hunt?
Well, this year, you mean ever, or like where am I going this year? Or?
In the past, where all have you been? And then we'll go to where you're going.
I've hunted, Georgia, obviously, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, Illinois, Indiana, and Kansas. I think. Oh, and Oregon.
Are these? How do you make these contacts? I mean, these people that you talk to on social media, or you just know people in the hunting community, or?
No, I mean some of it's kind of all three. Some of it's public land. Some of it's writing letters and getting, like Kansas. I just sent some letters out there and got permission on some land. Some of it is people I've met through social media. So yeah, I mean, just anyway, I'll try anything once.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
However it works out.
That's cool. Has traveling, and especially traveling to hunt, was it difficult, or has it been difficult with all this COVID stuff going on?
Well, not particularly. I mean, I did know, like, I think it would have been last spring I was going to go and turkey hunt Ohio and scout for deer, and they shut it down where nobody could come into the state, or I think nobody could buy a hunting license. So it did mess up one trip, but other than that, it hasn't been too bad. I know, like when I flew to Oregon, it was a lot more aggravating getting on a plane or whatever. I'm guessing because of COVID, but on the flip side, the airport was empty. So
yeah, I didn't even think about that. Are you just taking your bow, or do you take a rifle?
Generally, I just take my bow. I don't think I've rifle hunted in anywhere else outside of Georgia. Well, no, I did in Tennessee. Not bad.
Now, you mentioned just a second ago where you're planning to go this upcoming season. Where all do you plan to hunt?
Yep. So right now, we've got Ohio for sure, Kentucky for sure, West Virginia for sure, Kansas for sure, Alabama for sure. But my plan is to go in on day one in every state and kill a big buck, and then I'll have more time to go somewhere else. But
that would be nice.
It doesn't always work out that way. Yeah. So if it works out good, I might hunt some more places. I don't know.
Now, up until now, which state have you killed your biggest buck in?
Georgia. I don't know if I've killed one out of state. I would even make like my top 5. Biggest I've killed out of state was, I think, like a 126 in Kansas.
Now, how does hunting in these different places, as far as the strategies and the methods that you use to kill a deer, how does it differ?
It differs a lot. Yeah, so I look at what I would call like the most limited factor. So, or like whatever the deer needs to survive, that's the most limited. So, for example, deer needs food, water, shelter, and they got to go from one to the other. So, like in Kansas, food would almost be unlimited, you'd say, but the cover is kind of the most limited thing. So you kind of look at, if a buck's looking for does, he's just going to go from one little patch of cover to the next, and exactly where the deer are bedded, because if there's a tree there, there's probably a deer bedded under it. And but then you go to like, so here in Georgia, it's probably definitely food, covers everywhere, and so that's why throwing out corn works. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
you could throw out corn in Kansas, and I've actually done it.
So you're saying that you've put corn and apples and stuff out in Kansas, and they didn't even touch it.
Right. I mean, I didn't even hunt it. I just put a camera on it just to see, if anything would even come to it. And like, no, food is not extra food is not they're just whatever. Ain't worried about it. They got plenty. Corn and beans everywhere.
Yeah, when they got
that's like, if I was going to a new state, the first thing I'm going to think is, what is the deer going to have the hardest time finding that it needs? You know what I mean? Like, is water a thing? I mean, is food what they need the most? And then just kind of go from there. But you also notice a lot of like differences between deer. Like, for example, in West Virginia, honest to God, you can go back and look at the video, and I showed what tree I was in. I was probably 60 feet high in a tree, and deer were still looking up and busting me. But in Kansas, you can be 8 feet off the ground and grunt, and the deer be looking at the bottom of your tree like, where is he? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they won't look up.
Yeah. Is it because of the hunting pressure, like, for example, in West Virginia?
You can walk. I don't think so. Because I was hunting my buddy Weston's farm, and I mean, I didn't feel like they got super pressured. The best thing I could think of was maybe those deer were used to looking up and down mountains, so it's just came natural to them to look up for danger.
That makes sense.
Whereas in Kansas, it's totally flat, so they would never think to look up.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't think of that.
I mean, I don't know if that's why but that was the best guess I could come up with. But I mean, there's a lot of differences like that. You know, like for example, down here, like if a mature doe walks across where I walked in, I would say 95 times out of 100, she's gonna freak out and blow and stomp at you and launch this big investigation. But like in the Midwest, a deer will walk across where you walked and not even give it a second thought. You know. I don't know how that is either, but anyway, so it's cool going to different places, and you know, especially since almost everywhere is easier than it is here. So
Yeah, it's definitely has its challenges. Hunting in the South, it can get pretty difficult, especially
yeah,
during the fall or winter. You know, during the rut, and you think it. You know, the temperature drops, and then the next day it warms back up again, and it seems to throw everything off.
yeah, no kidding. I will say though, if it's say it's 80 degrees in the rut here, I'd say it slows them down, but I feel like they'll still kind of move. But if it ever gets to 70, 80, 90 degrees, like for example, last year when I was in Ohio for like 10 days, it was like 80 degrees. And I'm talking spots that would normally see 20 deer, you'd see like one. I mean, like it literally just shut them down. So,
Yeah.
but now here, you pretty much just expect it to get hot.
Now, on your
But
channel, I saw a video recently that you posted where you went out west and you was hunting for mule deer. I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit and how that was.
it was all right. It was, see, I went on some public land out there with a guy I actually met through Facebook or whatever. It was different. I mean, we never got on anything big until the last hour of the last day, and they were so far away we didn't have time to get to them. But saw a lot of deer. I'd have loved to have had an elk tag. If I'd had an elk tag, I probably would have shot a pretty decent bull, but I didn't even realize elk lived out there in the desert like that. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely different than anything I've done before. It's a lot of looking, and I mean, you would be surprised how good them dang deer can blend in. I mean, like you can have one found in a spot and scope and lose them and take you, knowing right where he's at, take you 10, 15, 20 minutes to find him again.
I've never been out west or hunted anything like that, but I've seen videos and stuff, and it seems way different than what I'm used to here hunting anything.
It is, and the other thing is, it can be 100 degrees during the day and get down to like 40 that night. And not only that though, but say it's 100 degrees, you'd be carrying a 50-pound backpack, walk a mile, and not have any sweat on you. I guess just because the air's so dry, you don't. I mean, your body, it's works like it's supposed to. I mean,
yeah,
your sweat evaporating off your skin is what's supposed to cool you down. And we have such humidity here, it doesn't work. But out there, it works.
Yeah, the humidity here is so bad that man, it's almost miserable in early bow season.
Oh yeah.
Well, man, before we finish up here, I just wanted to ask you about your music video. I was just showing it to my wife the other day, and I encourage anyone to go on there and check it out. Your music video, Shank a Deer. And I thought it was pretty cool. Can you tell us a little bit about how you come up with that music video?
Sure. So I've actually written a lot of songs like that. Like I'll be just sitting in a deer stand or at work or what. I mean, I'm just constantly always kind of like writing lyrics and stuff, and I'll get a song stuck in my head, and then next thing you know, it ended up being about deer hunting. Like little by little, the lyrics will change, and next thing you know, shanking deer is then went from drinking beer to shanking deer. And then, of course, I can't sing at all, so
Now you did pretty good, man.
My buddy David Alligood. No, that wasn't me singing. I got
Oh,
my
really?
buddy David Algood to sing it and recorded him singing it, and yeah, and I just lip synced it.
Oh, okay. I
He's
thought it
so
was
busy
you,
with
man.
work, he didn't have time to be in the video. No, I wish I could sing that good.
I was like, man, he can sing pretty good, man. I thought it was pretty good.
I tried recording it myself, and man, it was so bad that I knew nobody wasn't gonna sit there and listen through that. Like, I mean, if it had been just halfway decent, I'd have just went with it.
Well, it was definitely a cool video, especially right here before hunting season starts. A couple weeks before. It's a good, funny video that gets you in the mindset of shanking a deer. So I thought it was pretty cool. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on here and talking to me. And can you tell the people watching where they can find you on social media?
Sure, yeah. It's Have a Boat Will Travel on YouTube, Have a Boat Will Travel on Facebook, and Have a Boat Will Travel on Instagram.
All right.
Pretty easy to find.
All right, man. Well, folks, I appreciate you checking out this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to the channel and keep following Carolina Whitetails. I appreciate it.
So I sit right here on the edge of this clear, cut until he comes back next year. And shank a deer, and shank a deer.